You are listening to Nightline Africa on the English service of the Voice of America. I'm your host, Peter Clotte in Washington, D.C. Guillaume Soro, a former rebel leader in Ivory Coast and a candidate in next year's presidential election, could face life in prison over an alleged coup plot that involved amassing weapons, the country's public prosecutor said Thursday. The Ivorian authorities issued an arrest warrant for Soro on Monday, prompting him to call off a planned homecoming after months overseas. The warrant is likely to increase tensions ahead of an October 2020 election that is seen as a test of Ivory Coast stability after two civil wars since the turn of the century. For analysis on the latest development of the situation in Ivory Coast, Nyaka Lagoke, a political analyst, joins me live in the studio here in Washington, D.C. Hello, Nyaka, and welcome to Nightline Africa.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
So let me ask you, what was your reaction, or what did you make of the arrest warrant issued by the government or by the public prosecutor against Guillaume Soro, a former Speaker of the National Assembly of Parliament of Ivory Coast?
It's just the result of the war between Alassane Dramane Ouattara and Soro Guillaume. And as we know, Soro Guillaume was the leader of the rebellion that they launched on behalf of Mr. Ouattara for him to become to run for president. And then, so there was a civil war, as you said. Soro thought that he was going to become the successor of Mr. Ouattara, who had other plans. We thought it was going to be for the Prime Minister, Gon Coulibaly. But now, we know Mr. Ouattara himself wants to extend his term in power in Ivory Coast. So
but isn't the Constitution strict on two-term? Doesn't it have a two-term limit? And what led to the fallout between President Ouattara and Guillaume Soro?
No, I think President Ouattara changed the Constitution. And then even with the new Constitution, the experts say that he cannot run anymore. But Mr. Ouattara has a different understanding of the new Constitution. And so that's the point number one. Point number two, Soro, in the beginning, was Ouattara's right-hand person. And when he became Gbagbo's prime minister, there was some suspicion that Soro was leaning towards Gbagbo, even though we knew that Soro was going to betray Gbagbo the way he did. And then he switched back to Ouattara, and then he became Ouattara's prime minister. Like I said again, Ouattara had other plans, or he wanted to remain in power maybe forever, or he wanted to become president for maybe 2 more terms. And Soro also, he has been very imprudent. He was. It showed that he was not. He was in a hurry, and then he has shown to Mr. Ouattara that he wanted his seat, and then it's a power struggle.
Now, do you foresee a case where the arrest warrant could be squashed for the sake of peace, because it has anticipated that if this continues, there could be insecurity in Ivory Coast?
Yeah, there was already insecurity. There has always been insecurity in Ivory Coast. We know it. Like I said, there was a rebellion for Ouattara to become the candidate when he was believed to have won the election. And then Gbagbo did not want to relinquish power because Gbagbo thought that he had won the election. Mr. Ouattara resorted to violence with the support of the international community to go and bomb Ivorians and to support the rebels. And when Mr. Ouattara became the effective president of the Ivory Coast, what did he do in 10 years? They were not respecting the people's freedoms, and then all the dissenting voices have been suppressed. And then Gbagbo's people have been put in prison, and people are still in exile. And those who have been freed cannot leave the country. So there was insecurity.
But this was denied by supporters of President Ouattara. They said some normalcy has returned. Ivorians go about their businesses without fear of being beaten or being arrested or being jailed. Mm-hmm. And that is why the seeming peace being enjoyed by Ivorians, people think President Ouattara should continue because peace and prosperity has returned to Ivory Coast, and that is why they want him to seek re-election. Why do you deny that?
I have one of my friends. She posted something on Facebook. It's a serious conversation, but I like what she said. That a mother told her that in the house, when you want to make sure that no one can steal anything that you have, then you give your wallet or your purse, to the thief. So in the case of Ivory Coast, the one who brought violence is the one who is in power. That's why people have the impression that there's peace.
But Guillaume Soro was the
some
leader
peace.
of the rebellion, not Ouattara, not President Ouattara. Before he became president, Guillaume Soro led the rebellion, and for the sake of peace, that led to a form of government that ensured Guillaume Soro became the prime minister of then President Laurent Gbagbo. Isn't it the case?
No, I don't know, how to discuss that. But the point is that those who won the war and who were believed to have won the election, they kept, the power of the weapon. They had that, and then they repressed all dissenting views in the country. This is the reality. That's point number one. And now, when people thought that there was a kind of peace in the country, we knew that those who fought to dislodge Gbagbo from power, sooner or later they were going to fight because no one shares the presidential seat. So it is either Ouattara or Soro Guillaume. So that's the situation in which we found ourselves. And then they've been yesterday they were fighting for Alassane Ouattara's presidency, and now today they are fighting for power, and then that's why people are concerned. Soro Guillaume was the leader of the rebellion. He has some warlords who recognize him as the leader, even though that rebellion was done on behalf of Mr. Alassane Ouattara. So it's infighting.
But let me ask you, I understand Guillaume Soro still has a lot of support in the military. Do you foresee any possibility that he could be allowed to run for the presidency as an opposition leader?
This is what I'm saying. If people know Mr. Ouattara, I can tell you now, the answer is no.
Why?
Mr. Ouattara cannot govern in a democratic environment. He does not like dissenting views.
No, but that is not true. He won an election. That he was declared a winner.
Which one?
He won re-election.
Which one?
That is why he has two terms in office.
No, Peter, it's not happening like that. Even the election people said that he won. I have been saying for 10 years that I do not know who won the election because, according to some credible information, after the first round, Mr. Ouattara was number 3. That's another conversation.
Well, but that has not been proven.
No.
These are. But let's move on.
Yes.
Now, going forward, people are expressing concern that if, for some reason, Guillaume Soro is not allowed to run, there could also be increased instability in Ivory Coast. What is your take?
I agree with you. People say that. Because, again, if yesterday Soro Guillaume and Mr. Ouattara, they decided that they needed to use violence to impose the candidacy of Alassane Ouattara, today, what we know of Soro Guillaume, we can anticipate that he's going to resort to violence to try and impose his candidacy because Mr. Ouattara, there is no way Mr. Ouattara will allow him to run against him or to allow to run against the one he may choose because we know Gbagbo is in Europe, in Belgium. Blake Goudet is in the Netherlands, in Europe. And then Miss Simone Gbagbo, she's been freed, but she cannot move out. She cannot even travel out of the country. So Ouattara has created an environment in order to weaken his opponents or to silence those who can come and who can defy his regime.
But a lot of African leaders do that. You weaken your opposition in order for you to win re-election or win an election. But let me ask you this. If West African leaders or ECOWAS is able to broker a peace deal to ensure that at least Guillaume Soro is able to compete, who do you think will win in a fair, transparent, and peaceful election in Ivory Coast?
Or do you take into account the possibility
other opposition leaders?
No.
Yes.
Like to Gbagbo and then Henri Konan Bédié.
For now, we don't know if Gbagbo is able to do it or not because at the ICC prosecutors are appealing the case, so he is out at the moment.
This is what I'm saying. So,
well, let's look at the current situation in Ivory Coast now.
Yeah. So there is a possibility that Soro can become a serious challenger. Because people are fed up of Mr. Alassane Ouattara's system, and then I'm not saying that I'm not saying that Soro Guillaume is going to win the election, but I hear many people who do not like what he did, who think that they can go rally beyond any person who can stand against Alassane Dramane Ouattara. That's why Soro Guillaume feel emboldened to do what he's doing, and that's why Mr. Ouattara does not want any other person to run against him in the country. So
now let's look at former President Bédié. Do you anticipate him running? Because as at the moment, we heard reports, local reports, that he's not made up his mind yet, or he's going to support somebody else.
He has already, this is what I'm saying. He has already expressed the intention to run for president at age 85. And Alassane Dramane Ouattara may be, but then he will be like 78, and he still wants to be the president of the country.
Well, if Ivorians decide to
it's not Ivorians. You know how Alassane Ouattara became president through war. It's not what Ivorians wanted.
I understand that. But there has been an election, and he has won an election.
And even that election, this is what I'm saying, Peter, even that election in 2015, even that election, how did he do it? By even today as we speak, the international community, many of the representatives of the international community who supported him, today they do not like what he's doing regarding the Electoral Commission. He does not want to have to put into place like a transparent and then a transparent Electoral Commission, and then he wants to put his own people there to organize the election. So that's the same thing that he did in 2015.
No, but you can't blame him for that, because Ivorians would have to fight for a free, fair, transparent election. Hold on a second. Because in other countries where I have gone to cover elections for VOA, particularly political parties and supporters play a part in the transparency of the election. They are there when the votes are counted to protect their votes from being misapplied or undermined. Why can't Ivorians do the same thing?
There is a part of the opposition that Mr. Ouattara wants to deal with. People who do not have strong base. These are the people he wants to deal with. People who represent like Henri Konan Bédié's party, that was in the governing coalition. He does not even want to have negotiation. He doesn't want to have discussion with them. Same thing with Gbagbo's party. So then if you take some people who do not represent anything in the society, anything that they represent the opposition, then you are fooling or you are deceiving everyone.
But my question is, why are Ivorians not protecting their vote? If they said the elections were not free, fair, credible, and transparent, why are they not protecting their votes?
But do you think that people can protect their vote in a country where the leader is behaving like a tyrant or like a dictator?
Well, we can't say that. We can't say that.
I can't say that. I can, because these are the facts that we have. Well, I have already given you the example of Gbagbo. We know that the government...
The issue of Gbagbo doesn't come up.
No, it's important. Ouattara, when they saw that Gbagbo was going to be free, he sent his lawyers to ask the ICC to keep Gbagbo there.
Well,
this has been documented.
Well, let me put it this way. The ICC is appealing against the ruling by the judges absolving him of any crimes. So the process is not complete. So we can't go there because the case is still in court. But we'll continue with this discussion another time. Nyaka Lagoke is a political analyst. He joined me live from the VOA studios right here in Washington, D.C.